On this Civic, B1231 points to an evaporator temperature sensor circuit open in the climate control system. In plain terms, the climate control unit may not be seeing a valid evaporator temperature signal. The driver may notice air conditioning that does not control as expected, or the system may simply store the fault with limited symptoms. The possible fault areas are the evaporator temperature sensor, the sensor circuit wiring and connectors, or the climate control unit itself. The goal here is to confirm the fault, separate a bad sensor from an open circuit, and only then decide whether the control unit is still suspect. Start by proving whether the fault is current. Clear the DTC with the HDS. Turn the ignition switch to lock 0, then back to on Roman 2. Run the self-diagnostic with the HDS or with the climate control unit, then check for DTCs. If B1231 or the equivalent climate control self-diagnostic indication comes back, move on to the evaporator temperature sensor check. If it does not come back, treat it as an intermittent failure and check for loose wires or poor connections in the evaporator temperature sensor circuit. Next, turn the ignition switch to lock 0. Remove the evaporator temperature sensor and test it. If the sensor does not test OK, replace the evaporator temperature sensor. If the sensor tests OK, leave the evaporator temperature sensor disconnected and continue into the wiring checks. Now check the TEVA wire between the climate control unit and the evaporator temperature sensor. Disconnect the climate control unit 32P connector. With IG lock 0, the climate control unit 32P connector disconnected, and the evaporator temperature sensor 2P connector disconnected. Check continuity on the TEVA circuit. Test between the climate control unit 32P connector No. 14 BRN and the evaporator temperature sensor 2P connector No. 1 BRN. If there is continuity, the TEVA wire is OK and you move to the sensor common circuit. If there is no continuity, repair the open in the wire between the climate control unit and the evaporator temperature sensor. The last circuit check is the sensor COM/SenseCOM side. Keep the same test condition. IG lock 0, the climate control unit 32P connector disconnected, and the evaporator temperature sensor 2P connector disconnected. Check continuity between the climate control unit 32P connector No. 20 red and the evaporator temperature sensor 2P connector No. 2 red. If there is no continuity, repair the open in the wire between the climate control unit and the evaporator temperature sensor. If there is continuity, the sensor COM/SenseCOM wires are OK, and the diagnostic path calls for replacing the climate control unit. The clean way through B1231 is simple. Confirm the fault is current, test the evaporator temperature sensor, then check the two circuit legs for opens before condemning the control unit. For more diagnostic training, visit stepdiagnostics.com.